in its implementation, as well as what it means for SMEs and for startups and for the innovation ecosystem. My name is Lucia Katriňáková and I'm representing Slovak Alliance for Innovation Economy, or SAPIE, which is the organization which in cooperation with the Confederation of Czech Republic, Confederation of Industry of the Czech Republic, are bringing this event today to you. I would also like to thank our partners from Hopero and from Center for International Private Enterprise for their cooperation and opening this discussion to a wider CEE audience. Last remark from my side, please note that the event will be recorded, so also other participants who could not join us today can have the access to its content. The format is a moderated discussion. However, you will be able to pose your questions directly through chat throughout the whole discussion. Without any further delays, thanks to all our distinguished speakers who accepted our invitation to share their views on the AI Act. It's our pleasure that we can host you here today. And now I'm giving floor to Tomáš Meliško, CEO of InnoCloud, who will be leading today's discussion and introduce our distinguished speakers. So Tomáš, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lucia, and thank you for putting together this wonderful event, to the organizers. It is my pleasure to be the moderator today. My name is Tomáš Meliško. I'm the CEO of AI training platform InnoCloud. So I really look forward to discussing this topic of what is next for us in the implementation of AI Act. And I would like to start by introducing our really distinguished panelists today. So we have Jiří Drozd from the European Digital Agenda Unit of the Office of Government of the Czech Republic, so representing the state sector. Mr. Matěj Štefánik from the Ministry of Investments, Regional Development and Informatization of Slovak Republic. Maxime Ricard, Policy Manager at Allied for Startups, which is an umbrella organization for startups across the globe. We have Mariana Šarodič-Robič, she's a lawyer and Vice President of Cross Startup. And as she said, AI hobbyist, so she will be giving us her point of view on where is the AI Act taking us. And I think that we can briefly start to discuss what is ahead of us today. And as we know, new technologies are undoubtedly having impact on various aspects of our lives. And one of the most recent pieces of legislation that is coming through is the EU AI Act, which has been passed by European Parliament. And it is becoming the world's first AI law. So this is really a game-changing moment for us in the innovation economy and ecosystem for us. And really the questions are, what can we expect from this new legislation coming into force within 1st of August, which is the expected date? And really the question is, what is behind the AI Act? And what are the still remaining open questions that need to be addressed? And how can the AI Act help us to tap into the potential of artificial intelligence while ensuring that users and businesses are adequately protected? So really, this is the key question that needs to be addressed. And there are a lot of questions that startups and companies are having, how to better prepare for this upcoming topic. So we are here to discuss this, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion as we have both the representatives of the state sector and the policymakers, and on the other hand, we have people that are behind startups, behind the actual economy that should be driving this force towards being a success, rather than something that is hindering back us in the European Union. So I would like to start with the first question towards Jiří, and you as a representative of the Czech policymaking branch and part of the, of course, European Union member state. The question is, how do you anticipate the implementation of AI Act, and what are the still open and remaining questions that need to be addressed, and how is the Czech government planning to support businesses? And our focus today would be on the small, medium enterprises. How do you expect them to comply with the regulations?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I think these are very crucial questions to answer, and it's still not, there is no simple answer to that, but we have lots of work ahead of us. Most importantly, not only the Czech Republic, but also other EU member states need to designate their national competent authorities. be it market surveillance authorities or notifying bodies, notifying authorities. The whole system of the national competent authorities is very complex because AI Act is a very broad, and it covers so many sectors. So we need to first of all we need to establish a system of competent authorities that is not administratively neither financially burdensome, and also that actually works for the AI companies. There are still some open questions. As I said, the designation of the competent authorities. At the working level, we are still preparing some options for the political level to decide. We have some government level meetings ahead because we are still waiting for the outcomes of these debates. We have some suggestions, but still this particular topic has not been yet decided. Another thing that I would like to mention is probably the adjustment of the representation in AI board. It's also a very important body, and since the Czech Republic, this is like it goes hand in hand, since we have not decided which authorities will be designated. We still have not a proper representation of such body of such authorities in this body. So these are like the two main questions that we are dealing with at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much, Iji. And for all the participants, in case you have any questions, feel free to use the chat. Very simple, just type in the question, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to cover them towards the end of this session. So just to make it more interactive this way. Thank you, Iji. So moving on to Mr. Štefánik, same question, but maybe from the Slovak perspective. Do you kind of anticipate same kind of issues that have been mentioned, or what is our approach here in Slovakia towards the implementation and working with SME companies?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all the participants. As Mr. Drozd has already mentioned, the implementation of not just AI Act, but also all EU laws within the EU Digital Rulebook, and it's more than 60 laws. It has brought unprecedented challenges to all EU member states. And yes, I can confirm that we share almost the same or similar challenges with the Czech Republic as well as with other member states. And these challenges are related to personal, financial, as well as institutional capacities, and last but not least, they are reflected in a legislative framework. So the priority of the Slovak Republic today regarding AI Act is to professionally manage its implementation and all other EU acts relevant and related to AI Act in order to mitigate the risk of its impact on Slovakia and its market, and also to take an advantage of opportunities offered by the AI Act as well as other acts. As it was already mentioned, the AI board was formed, I think last week. It was the first meeting of the board in Brussels. And yes, it is expected to gradually enter into force, like the AI Act in general, in the upcoming months. Some parts of the AI Act, in particular the prohibitions, will start to apply as early as 1st January 25. And by July 25, we should have nationally, we can say, defined architecture of a new type of public authorities for the supervision, use, and also experimentation with artificial intelligence. Well, if we as member states will not be successful in this implementation, Slovakia and other states face the risk of the EC proceedings in the European Court of Justice, also called infringement process. And there's also another dimension of we can say managing these challenges and tasks that we are standing in front of, and this is that they are major global and other players operating in digital markets who can also sue member states, namely for damages for failure or delay in implementing regulations relevant to AI and digital markets, and we need to eliminate this risk. So Slovakia is a small market, even smaller than Czech Republic is, and it is expected that the influence of the European AI Act will be asymmetric compared to larger EU member states. So yeah, we are trying to analyze now in which tasks we are facing and which duties we have to perform by the set dates by the Act, and I can explain it more detail later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Štefanik. So this is interesting. We might come back to the topic of asymmetry. This might be quite interesting to get your view on this. So let's move on to more the business side of things. And I would like to ask Mariana on her opinion on how does she see the AI Act aligning with existing regulations, and what are the key legal challenges with your legal background that businesses might face when adopting the EU AI Act, and how can they actually prepare and mitigate for these challenges?
Right. Thank you for your question, Tomasz, and thank you for having me today. So I was listening and putting down the notes of both arguments presented by Jiří and by Matej. I hope it's okay to be on the first name basis because we are all in this pot together. And all the points taken so far are really insightful and show that we are all aware of the risks. The only thing is whether we are able to unanimously address them for the good of the whole European Union. Having said that, we just had all elections for the new parliament. And one of the key points that was stressed in front of the voters was basically that 70% of our regulation is coming from Brussels. So for Croatia, for Slovakia, for Czech Republic, there is no way out of this. We are more, let's say, EU regulation country than national regulation country. And this is also the burden that has to be taken into account by every national body. The crucial and the key part when it comes to implementation of AI Act is going to be done by the AI Office, the body that will have to basically unify and enable all local national bodies on Slovakian, on Croatian or Czech side, provide assistance, provide guidance and unanimous implementation that will enable all of us businesses to thrive in secure when it comes to certain regulatory framework. Because as Matej said rightly, we are in digital decade and we are just being basically bomb shelved by different kind of regulation. Most of those regulations are aiming on big multinational companies. And they are not designed for us small businesses that are majority basically of European market. Small SMEs that are up to 10 people employed, startups. And the only thing, and I think Maxime will definitely say, I believe the same afterwards, is that all businesses want to have certain conditions. They want to have going concern when it comes to circumstances, when it comes to regulation. The worst thing you can do to any kind of businesses is to change the things swiftly, because the limited resources that any business have on their disposal, especially when you are a startupper, definitely cannot add up more when it comes to uncertainty with regulation. And I think the first and the foremost, most important question is that the AI Act, let's say implementators, because there will be a bunch of those who will do the implementation, will have to produce a clear guidance to all SMEs, whether they are within the scope or not of AI Act, and if they are within the scope, how they can comply. And having said that, that means that the AI office and all national AI bodies will have to have capabilities and competencies to identify that clearly and swiftly. And to close this round of question, there is a one Croatian startup that is trying to do in this field of RegTech. It's called TrustPad, and he is trying to develop a model that by just answering a number of questions identifies whether you are within the scope of AI Act or not, and basically give you a direction. If you are, what are your next steps? And I think this is the only way that the businesses will be able to address it, because businesses want to be compliant. This is like, of course, they want to be forever on the market. They want to try, they want to produce to have new products and services, but they don't have resources to tackle all uncertainties that the ever-changing regulatory framework brings to them.
Thank you, Mariana. And it seems like even though you are really an expert on this and you're following the AI Act closely, there are still some questions that need to be answered. So I can just put myself into shoes of some people that don't have this as their daily agenda, that still they might have a lot of questions and need some guidance and direction.
Yeah.
So I'll move on to Maxime, and can you maybe tell me, how do you perceive the AI Act? And you're really at the heart of what is happening in Brussels with your portfolio, a number of European startup organizations that you represent under your umbrella. So in your view, what will change for startups and entrepreneurs in Europe? And what does the new regulation mean for the SMEs and startups? And do you actually think that it will affect innovation in business, and in what sense?
That's a lot of questions. I'll try to answer all of them. First of all, I would like to say that indeed, I do agree with you, Mariana. I think you answered many of the things I'm going to say right now. The AI Act is really a mixed bag for startups. It is setting necessary standards to ensure the safe and ethical AI development. However, it also imposes significant compliance obligations, specifically for startups. Like you said, Mariana, startups are smaller players with less resources, and hence it's even more difficult for them to comply with the regulation that is, like you said, meant first for global and really big players. So although we appreciate the provisions supporting innovation in the AI Act, such as the one on AI regulatory sandboxes, allowing startups to test their AI solutions in a controlled environment, we wished that there had been more of these innovation-focused provisions in the AI Act. When you look at the AI Act, I think it's even a stretch to say that there are 10% of the AI Act dedicated to innovation. It's mostly about regulating what companies do. So the AI Act is mostly about regulating AI, not necessarily promoting it. Now, regarding our portfolio, it's true that we indeed have a lot of European startup organizations within our membership. Again, the compliance burden is really increased for them. Startups will be facing new compliance challenges, and it's one thing that I always remember when I started working at Life for Startups. I had the pleasure to provide a briefing to one of our organizations on the AI Act specifically, and the first questions within the chat were regarding the GDPR, putting in parallel the compliance with the AI Act with the compliance with the GDPR. The question was basically, is it going to be as difficult and as intense for us startups to comply with the AI Act as it was the case with the GDPR? So yeah, again, it creates opportunities for startups. I think we can definitely agree on that, because it gives more legal certainty to startups, and we love legal certainty. It leads to potential greater market acceptance, consumer trust. We hate a fragmented market, but it will be a bit harder for the SMEs and the startups to comply with that. If you look at the regulation, even I, after 3 years focusing on the AI, I am struggling with the regulation, and I need to always check what are the things that I need to do to make sure that I fully understand everything. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed perspective then, I would say.
Thank you, Maxime. And I think you just kind of underlined what Mariana has said. So we have a double view on this, that there are still a lot of questions that need to be answered. So maybe let's go back for a second to the policy backyard. And a question to you, Jiří. So, okay, at what stage of implementation are we now, and what has the European Commission already published? So what is out there that we can have a look at, and what is in planning that will be released soon? And how quickly do member states actually have to react now? And what are the concrete steps that you are planning at the Czech national level? And about the new EU AI office, what is going to be their role in this enforcement of AI Act, specifically in your market?
Yeah, sure. At the moment, when it comes to the implementation, the whole negotiation process is over. So let's say, yeah, because it took almost 3 years, and it was very tough because even during the trilogues, and I was part of the Czech presidency when we were negotiating the general approach in the council. So I know a little bit of how hard it is to conclude a position between 27 countries. So the negotiation process is finished. Now we are waiting for the official for AI being published in the EU official journal, which it seems it will be on 12th July, and the AI Act will come into force at the beginning of August, if I'm not mistaken. But these things changes all the time. But hopefully, we will have the final text in the journal soon. At the moment, as I have already mentioned in my first in the first round, we are setting up the AI board, which is kind of crucial for the whole coordination between the competent authorities and the cooperation between the AI office or European Commission with the member states, and the setting up of mechanism of the governance and enforcement at national level. What has been already published, well, there was the decision to establish the AI office, which is kind of crucial for the enforcement and of AI models. And the first meeting of AI board was last week. And what we are waiting for is the establishment of all the subgroups that needs to be working very soon, because there are some interplays between AI Act and other sectorial legislation, for instance, the medical device regulation. And what is also very important when it comes to the supportive measure of innovation is, for instance, the establishment of AI sandboxes, which is something which is not, which deadline is not coming very soon, but still it should be in 24 months. But if you want to really establish the national sandbox, you should start sooner than later. One of the first deadlines that comes into force is the prohibitions of certain usage of AI, and especially if member states want to use the exception, which is within the Article 5, they really need to start working. What also are member states waiting for, and also businesses, is the codes of practice for the general purpose AI modules and systems. This is crucial because we already are using, or like the general public is using, lots of LLM modules, and the main focus will be also for the LLMs or the large modules that comes with certain systemic risks, because there will be much more obligation to follow. So these are some of the things that the Commission is planning on working on, especially when it comes to scientific panel, which will be very helpful for either the Commission, AI office, or the member states. So we have some deadlines that we need to follow. The first one is the 3 months since the coming into force to designate the authorities that are protecting fundamental rights, and then after 6 months, as I have already said, the prohibition of certain AI systems and its use. So we have a lot of things ahead of us that we still need to focus on. And I think at this moment it's very crucial to cooperate also with the business, because at the end of the day, the businesses knows what is important for them and for their systems to be viable in the European market. So I think these are the questions that we are dealing with now and that we need to focus on.
Thank you, Jiří. Seems like you will have a busy summer and then the rest of the year to really get these things moving. So moving on to Matej, on a Slovak perspective, what sources and support systems are being developed at our national level to assist organizations in understanding and implementing the AI Act? And do you actually plan any collaborations with the private sector or educational institutions to enhance the understanding, which we kind of have a sense that is still not out there and fully maybe comprehended by all the players? So how do you actually plan to support them?
Well, thank you. As Jiří mentioned, one aspect of the AI Act related to SMEs, also universities and startups, is AI regulatory sandbox that need to be established by in 24 months, so by June or July 26. And as regards Slovakia, sandbox in the Slovak environment, Slovak context, last year, the feasibility study of this AI regulatory sandbox was conducted, and this study assesses the feasibility of establishing an AI sandbox in Slovak conditions in general. And based on analysis of the existing legal framework, there are currently no substantive legislative barriers to the establishment, also to operation of the AI sandbox according to the AI Act. And this is also confirmed by the current operation of regulatory sandboxes of the National Bank of Slovakia, as well as Regulatory Office for Network Industries, I think, in the legal environment of Slovakia. On the other hand, specific context for the establishment and operation of such type of sandbox and the choice of the most appropriate solution will also depend on how the requirements of the regulation will be implemented in Slovakia, in particular to the institutional framework, into the existing legislative and institutional framework of the Slovak Republic. As Jiří mentioned as well, another task is to designate the competent national supervisory authority under the AI Act. And yes, the feasibility study that I mentioned is now being consulted with the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, also known as IEEE, Professional Association for Electronics Engineering, and also the world's largest technical professional organization. And this, our cooperation of our ministry with IEEE is like part of a memorandum of understanding between our ministry and IEEE as of last year in the field of AI. And under this memorandum, last November, the so-called Adaptive AI Governance Initiative was launched by Slovakia and IEEE. And together with countries like Switzerland, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, the other global investment hubs. And through this initiative and by involving national experts in the field of AI, we aim to foster flexible and pro-competitive regulatory approach within the complex new EU AI regulation. and also to better manage the anticipated impact of automatization on the labor market. And as previously I mentioned, this asymmetric approach of the AI Act on small countries as Slovakia is, it is connected to public resources of states, because public resources of small states are limited, and large digital companies, the big tech companies, are not yet established or investing in Slovakia, and these companies, which they will more easily bear the additional cost of regulation than SMEs. So moreover, our domestic venture capital is almost non-existent, and we need to be very careful to take advantage of the potential comparative advantages offered by the AI Act and other regulations related to AI Act. And we, as a small countries, what is our potential role? Or because, as I mentioned, we do not host any big tech company so far, but we can also try to be gateway, not a getaway, but gateway for non-EU entities, even big tech companies or smaller industries, into the common EU market in exchange for opening or facilitating access for our entities to these new global markets, to third countries which are not members of the EU. So we, as a small countries, we need to be prepared for this role, maybe. So that's it. Like how, or the explanation how the impact of ACT, in which way it will be asymmetric to small countries as Slovakia is.
Thank you. I'll follow up on that because that is really interesting. So if you had a magic stick, and what would you do as top 3 things that a small country could do to kind of overnight harvest this opportunity? I'm really interested in this.
Well, I think the base is to set predictable and I would say really well-designed institutional framework and legislative framework, because the regulation is a key. We have stakeholders from SMEs as well as big companies included in our working groups, committees, as well as governmental council, which last meeting was last Monday, one week ago. And they always say us that okay, from the point of view of state authority, regulate, but not over-regulate, not avoid gold plating. And this is what I can confirm on behalf of the Slovak Republic and our ministry, that we try to avoid gold plating as well as over-regulation, because we want to build really very well designed, as I mentioned, institutional framework and legislative institutional capacities and legislative framework. And this is what I would like to point in this field is that in Slovakia, that in 2021, the Slovakia, and represented by our ministry, was the first EU country that applied for the technical assistance within technical assistance for the technical support under the technical support instrument of the European Commission. Sorry, but these terms are I want to be strict in the terms. And this was technical support related to implementation of laws within the EU digital rulebook. And the main output of this technical support instrument was a study, which name is improving conditions for e-government and AI solutions and supporting the implementation of it was within the recovery and resilience plan of Slovakia. So this is the name of this study. It has more than I think more than 200 pages. And it analyzes 5 main digital acts: the AI Act, then DGA, DA, DSA, and also I think Digital Markets Act is analyzed in that study. And following this study, an initiative document called Institutional and coordination mechanism of the digital transformation of Slovakia was adopted by the governmental council last week that I mentioned. And this document, I hope that it will be submitted and also approved by Slovak government hopefully next week. And the aim of this document, of this material, is to outline institutional capacities as well as legislative framework needed for successful implementation of European digital regulation in general. And as we have been discussing impact of EU digital regulation on business, on SMEs, as well as big tech companies continuously with our, as I mentioned, within our working groups, committees, as well as governmental council, we try to regulate, but not to over-regulate. So this is what I can confirm, and yes, so we'll see how this will be built, because these tasks are completely new. We listen from our partners, not just within the EU, but from our partners worldwide, that tasks within the AI regulation are new for everyone. So it's a challenge for every country to implement these regulations. So that's it.
Makes sense. I guess it's also the time to innovate also for the public sector to become more adaptive and agile. So
yes, definitely.
It's an opportunity there. Very good. Thank you very much. And I would like to encourage all the participants to ask any type of question, even if it's a concern or a doubt or something very specific. I think the guests here today are really giving us a 360 view on what is happening. So it's a great opportunity to get some answers. Now we'll move on to Mariana. So let's maybe get more into the content of the AI Act, and let's talk about some of the concerns. So for example, the ethical related topics or bias, discrimination, or privacy. How is actually this being addressed by the AI Act? And what are the ethical safeguards that might be necessary to complement the AI Act? And do you believe that we actually have struck the right balance between regulation and innovation in this regard?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because I think this was the trigger for the European Union in 2017 to start thinking about what to do with artificial intelligence. That wasn't even the artificial intelligence then, it was machine learning, deep tech, whatever. And our primary concerns as European is to preserve our values, our freedoms, our rights, our legacy, our way of living. And this is what is embedded in ethical guidance. And what was published in ethical guidance in 2019 basically was maintained, and it's just upheld in AI Act. And I would say that anything that we were thinking or what we want to preserve and what makes us Europeans is basically there. And this is I would say the toughest challenge we are going to address. Regulation, yes, but the end goal of the regulation is to preserve this European, let's say, identity that we think it's worth of preserving. The problem is that while preserving the European identity, trying to over-regulate or regulate something that is still not yet defined. And this is the technology that is constantly evolving. So I think we are like having a double jeopardy. We see that the technology is changing our being, our core, and we want to maintain it. And our response to it was, let's bring another act that is going to regulate it on EU level. The problem is that the rest of the world doesn't react like that, and that our businesses are still competing on a global market. So if they are coming from European Union, or they are offering services and products in European Union and outside the European Union, they will still have to, let's say, compete and be compliant with all other markets they want to compete in. And we as Europeans want to have as many unicorns as possible, as many SMEs that are functioning and providing their services and doing operations globally. And this is what is very, very crucial. And this is what we have to basically keep in mind. So I think that all the answers are already there. So when it comes to anything that has to do with biases, with human rights, with freedoms, what are our core values? They have been, I think, diagnosed really well and really well described in these 7 requirements that each AI system that falls within AI Act has to upheld from the stage of design. So all answers are there. The problem is that the burden of upholding all of those standards, it's not easy to maintain. And as we already stated, the businesses do not have capacities to do it themselves. So I think what Mate said previously, this clear, predictable framework, as you asked, Tomasz, about the magic wand, this is what we really need. And I think we have to remember that we are Europeans and set aside our national differences and small politics, let's say, fights, quarrels, and really think European way and try to put pressure on AI office to provide, together with the commission, that will basically provide bylaws, technical guidance, whatever, something that will be as we do in startup world, you know, user interface state of art, up to date with all the challenges that are there in the market, and swift answers. And it's not important that they are, let's say, correct, in a sense that usually the government wants to be correct and certain. They have to be swift, and they have to maintain, and this is the I think the crucial part, they have to maintain this agile approach. Otherwise, we are just going to do perfection of 90% of regulation when it comes to AI Act, but all the innovation will just vanish and disappear. And this is what we don't want to do. And we want to preserve this unique thing we are having on European territory, all of our legacies, our values, the way of living, the way we cherish our users, consumers, our citizens, our businesses, but still we want to be the one who are on front run of technology, not to give up the technology race just to have the best regulation possible, because we are still competing globally. And this is what I think we should all put our efforts in service of our businesses in order to enable them to compete globally, preserving what makes us European. So I think this is what I'm trying to basically to preach and to talk for the last 3 or 4 years since the whole story about AI Act came. This is not easy, but I think we have it in ourselves. The only thing is that we have to emphasize is whenever we can, and not to think about small victories, but have a global strategic position as European Union, and pursue this innovativeness, preservation of our core European values that we have and want to maintain, and that the rest of the world was emulating through technology, through products and services for the last, let's say, centuries. So if we want to maintain our leading position on the market and upheld our civic freedoms and rights, we basically have to have them on a dashboard, you know, as a scorecard. This should be our speed meter. So this is only my opinion on that.
Wow, very well said. And I have to say, I really agree with your view on how the key question is, how do we actually maintain Europe at the forefront of innovation here? So maybe a follow-up question to you, Mariana, on let's say we are working for a startup which is dealing with medical data, and you know, it's quite a sensitive area. And then in some markets, there is absolutely no regulation. So how do we do this as a company if we want to be a global provider of services? Do we have a bucket of solutions for EU, then something for the non-regulated markets, or we actually can run into the risk of these things being mixed up, or we need to hire someone internally to make sure that we are all compliant for different markets? So how will this actually, in practical terms, work out for smaller companies?
This is what my startups ask me every day, depending whether they're in incubation phase, acceleration phase, or they are already having product market fit. It's $1 million question. Basically, depending on the resources, on access of finance you have, you can address as many, as you know, as many risks as you are able. And I think if you already have achieved compliance on a market that are complex, like European market is, you should basically just pursue the same level of, the really high level of providing services and products in all other markets too, because underneath you, under the hub, you basically want to have your consumers as protected as possible. You want to have a trust, you want to have going concern business, and you want to bring innovation and better quality of service and everything to your clients. Like, you know, when Apple started with this user experience and how basically dragged all of other companies in digital era, that they have to basically address this Apple standard, let's say, when it comes to user interface. This is what would be my recommendation to them. So if they are already active in European market, it means that the level of compliance that they're already addressing is super high, and they should just pursue the operation on the same level, because they would only bring more value to new markets and new standards. And it will also make their operations, let's say, easier, because they will not have to downsize when it comes to standards and the way they operate. The problem is if they are coming from markets that are not as mature and as customer oriented as European market is, then they have a huge issue of compliance, and they will definitely have to put additional funds either to outsource or insource that competencies and basically achieve them. Otherwise, even the users expect that level of protection. You know, everybody is aware of their data and who you are sharing it with, whether you have in place. So it's already, let's say, a golden standard that you have everything tackled. So it's not easy, and this is why we need what Matej said. I repeat, this predictable, unique legal framework on EU level that would enable our businesses, you know, to basically to have support they need to do what they do when they bring innovation, because as you know, the possibilities are immense, and the world is waiting for nobody. They will just go incorporate somewhere else and implement that, and we don't want that. We want them to stay in European Union. We want them and they want to stay. So basically, we have to align all of those forces together. So this is the really long answer. Sorry.
No, but I think you really nailed it. There's no one clear answer. If there would be, then I think it would be easy. But it's really creating this magic recipe. So thank you for this.
Thank you.
Good. So moving on to Maxim, the speed of AI innovation is really brutal. It's very fast. So in your view, how can we actually be prepared in terms of updating the AI Act that it stays relevant? And how important is the collaboration between the public and the private sector in this implementation, making sure it's actually effective and successful?
Again, that's another $1 billion question. When policymakers started to think of creating this AI Act, the vast majority of the discussions were on, okay, are we really going to succeed in drafting an act on AI that will be future-proof? And again, I cannot tell you whether or not it will be. I don't have a crystal ball. However, I think this is definitely one of the major questions when it comes to the AI Act and AI in general, to be honest. The good news is that the EU and the European Commission, when they proposed the AI Act, took that into account. And they created provisions within the AI Act dedicated to updating the AI Act to make sure that it keeps pace with technological advancements and evolving market demands. So there is in the AI Act provisions on how to update the list of what we call high-risk AI systems. So basically, just one word on high-risk AI systems. It's actually really simple. It's part of these 4 categories of AI systems that the Commission decided to highlight. That is the most regulated. The first category is prohibited AI systems, not regulated, just banned. And what comes after that is the category of a high-risk AI system. So highly regulated AI systems if you use them, particularly if you are a provider. So how did they create that? They created a list of high-risk sectors, meaning that if you are a provider and you use an AI system within one of these sectors, well, you are considered a provider of a high-risk AI system, and then you need to comply with specific and particularly burdensome obligations. The good news, again, is that this list of high-risk AI systems can be updated, right? So the Commission can either add or delete use cases of high-risk AI systems. If I'm not mistaken, the AI systems are intended to be used in the areas listed in the high-risk AI systems list. And if, again, it's cumulative, AI systems pose a risk of harm to health and safety or an adverse impact on fundamental rights. So basically, if they see something that is really too risky, they can add something. If the Commission thinks that at some point this specific sector is not risky anymore, they can just delete it outright. So yeah, so I think this is not a bad idea, or obviously, since AI indeed evolves really rapidly. And to answer your question regarding how the public and the private sectors can implement the AI Act effectively, well, I think this is a really relevant question. Public-private collaboration is crucial for the successful implementation of the AI Act. And for that, and we already mentioned it, the AI Act is going to create a new structure, a new governance structure. So we mentioned it already. There's the AI Office, the AI Board, the Advisory Forum, and the Scientific Panel of Independent Experts. So just for the audience to really understand what we are talking about, the AI Office is part of the European Commission. It is within the European Commission, and it's about enforcing rules related to general purpose AI systems, general purpose AI models like the ones used to develop ChatGPT-like systems, and is going to issue guidelines to help implement the AI Act. The AI Board is composed of member states representing member states representatives, and the AI Office. So within the AI Board, there is the AI Office, and it's about coordinating national competent authorities and also issuing recommendations. And then come the Advisory Forum and the Scientific Panel. It's one of the biggest wins for us in the AI Act. The Advisory Forum is a forum composed of startups, SMEs, civil society, academia, so like people from the industry, researchers, and the mission of that forum is to provide expertise to the AI Board and the Commission, just to make sure that the member states and the Commission, so national level and EU level, they know what they are doing when they legislate, when they implement the AI Act. So this private-public connection is of utmost importance for us. And I think this is, again, one of the biggest wins for the startup ecosystem in the AI Act. And then comes the Scientific Panel, obviously, with AI experts to be supporting the enforcement. So yeah, I think indeed the question of how the hell we're going to make sure the AI Act stays up to date is really one of the biggest questions. Fortunately, the Commission and the member states, when they implement the AI Act, they will be guided by the industry, researchers, and civil society. So again, I'm usually a bit of a pessimistic person when it comes to the AI Act and its implementation, but I think we can at least say that there are some good things in the AI Act, like this advisory forum.
Okay, perfect. And maybe a follow-up question. So if I'm a startup and I'm not sure if my solution falls into the high or moderate risk category, or it's borderline, or it's some new disruptive technology, who am I gonna call? Who are the Ghostbusters that will come and save me?
I was going to answer Ghostbusters. Well, That's again a really good question. These bodies that were created, this new governance structure, is actually there to help. There will be codes of practice, there will be codes of conduct being drafted as well, and the industry can participate in those codes. It's really important, I think, that the startups understand that they can have a say in how the AI Act will be implemented. But the condition for that is to make sure that startups are aware that they can do it. And that's, again, one of the biggest problems about the AI Act. I've been talking to, obviously, a lot of startups for the past years regarding the AI Act specifically. And I can tell you that most of the time, when I tell them about the potential impacts of the AI Act on their businesses, most of the time they have no idea about the AI Act. Sometimes they have heard of it, but they have no idea like how big the impact will be. So I think the real challenge is to make sure that they know about the AI Act. That's the first challenge. And when it comes to who exactly they can contact, well, this is also my job to make sure that the startup ecosystem is aware of these developments. Recently, we provided a briefing for our members on the AI Act specifically with a compliance checklist that we'll be publishing normally really soon on our social media. So check it out. But yeah, I think it will be really up to also the industry to make sure that the startups know what's going on. There are not multiple, but some websites already that are proposing compliance checkers. So basically, if you're a startup and you develop an AI system, you can go to that website and you can say, all right, I think I'm a provider because I'm developing the AI system. I'm not only using or deploying it. And the compliance checker, well, it will basically tell you exactly what kind of obligations you will have eventually. So yeah, there's all these tips and tricks that will be developed, that have been developed already. And again, I think this will be one of the biggest challenges right now with the AI Act, to understand what will be the impacts and to know what you will need to do.
Perfect, thank you. So if you have any good resources, just kind of share them with us in the chat or after the session. It would be quite interesting to have your view on the really good quality source of information. Good. Maybe just a question to kind of additional question to Jiří. I would be quite interested on your national level. Obviously, you are a counterpart with the EU bodies, but do you also kind of look at Czech Republic and try to preserve your advantage? You are an export country, and you need to really address different markets, you know, China, US, and then are you thinking strategically how your economy and your companies in Czech Republic can actually make sure they can do business everywhere and at the same time not to leave the EU? So do you have these kind of thoughts and worries on your national level?
Yes, these are certainly like very important questions to have discussions at the national level about. Yeah, of course, we are cooperating from the very beginning of the start of the negotiation with the business sector, because it was very important to include them when we were forming our position during the negotiation, because most importantly it will have a significant impact on the businesses. And I can say that lots of Czech companies are very successful in the field of AI, and we would be very happy to support them and to with their innovations. And that's why we are thinking about establishing the AI sandbox, but this is a very early stage to say whether we will be establishing it just only on our own at the national level, or whether we join other member states. But this is the question that we still it's important, but there are many tasks that needs to be done prior to that, like prior to deciding whether we will be establishing our own sandbox. In the meantime, we are like joining lots of events and discussion when we are trying to explain what the AI Act is about. We have some newsletters that we are delivering to our stakeholders on monthly basis, and we have created a dedicated microsite when we try to explain what the AI Act is about, because at the moment, I think it's very important to raise the awareness of AI Act, because as already has been said, some companies or small companies like startups do not know that there is the AI Act and what it comes with it. But I don't know. It's very hard to say, because when you're in the AI bubble, you somehow know that there is a regulation that is coming, but still we hear some voices that are saying that they didn't know about it, about the AI Act. So most importantly, what we are focusing at the moment is, as I have said, the awareness and what AI Act will bring to the companies.
Perfect. Thank you. Good. Maybe we have some questions. So one is from Lucia from SAPI. So she's asking about how do you perceive the role of education about the AI as it keeps rapidly evolving, and what could be the best practice in educating actually governmental officers, businesses, etc., in this regard. So whoever feels that they can answer, please go ahead.
I can maybe try answering, because what we have been doing as CRO-AI for the last 5 years since we incorporated, we were basically talking about regulation, AI in general, and trying to get all stakeholders on board to demystify technology as such, and also inspire people to start learning. And this is the key part. When it comes to governmental bodies and those who will have to have capabilities to supervise, I don't see that only inspiration will be enough. It will have to be part of their regular educational agenda. So I think as soon as possible, they will have to build on capabilities in order to understand us. For businesses, it's easy because the driver is market. And you have to learn, otherwise you will not be state of art. You will become obsolete. You will not get access to funding. When it comes to regulator, it's not so easy to inspire people to do it themselves. So I think it's crucial to identify a learning scheme that will enable all the supporting bodies to be up to date with the technology in order to provide predictable framework for the businesses they are supporting, and also to preserve the values that we want to preserve as part of our European legacy. And definitely, yes, cooperation with academia, definitely, yes, going to kindergartens, going to universities, tackling the silver economy, because AI is gender, age, whatever, neutral. We are all immersed in it. So we all have to learn about AI. So any initiative on education is more than welcome.
Perfect. Any other views from Matej on how would you educate your colleagues?
If I may continue as well, everything that Mariana has said, I can totally agree with. I think that it's important to educate at all level of age, because, for instance, I think it's very important to start at primary schools and with people of young age, or even with all people, because AI is omnipresent. It will be everywhere, and more often we will be using within the public sector when we are going to access some services provided by the state. And I think it's crucial to know what are the limits of AI, what can we do with AI, which kind of data we can share with it, because this will have a very big impact on everyone in daily life. And also AI comes with lots of benefits, for instance, the efficiency of work, and it will change the labor market. I'm not afraid that we will collapse because of AI, but the nature of work will change, and we need to adapt to that. So as we would be efficient, and we will have some advantage in the market as well. So yeah, I think education is very important in that. And for instance, in Czech Republic, we have a project which is called the Czech Digital Week, where we are focusing on broadening and upskilling of people, and we are making lots of workshops within the government, and also with stakeholders that are connecting people with some interesting projects that are taking care and that are concerning, for instance, AI and basic digital skills.
Perfect. Thank you. Maciej, you want to add anything, or?
Well, in Slovakia, as regards AI and AI skills, we can say, we are now implementing one national project with our partner, National Coalition for Digital Skills and Jobs, and the title of the project is Digital Skills for a Green Future of Slovakia. And its main objective is to contribute to increasing the level of digital professional skills linked to research and innovation strategy of the Slovak Republic from 2021 to 2027, and to reflect needs arising from the industrial as well as green transformation, which are now which were popular under the last European Commission and still lasting, but under the Commission of Ursula von der Leyen. And these projects is aimed at the business sector as well as municipalities, public authorities in general, universities, and so on and so on in the Slovak Republic. So this is like one example. Another example focused on public authorities is a recommendation of an official advisory body of our ministry. Its name is Commission on Ethics and Regulation of AI. It's based on experts from various fields, from law, economy, medical industry, automotive industry, which is highly, I don't want to say popular, but which in Slovakia has really a high value on gross domestic product. And this committee issued or published, it was a recommendation on using AI by public authorities in Slovakia. It was published, I think, 1 year ago in June 2023. So this is how we try to be. This is how we try to teach public sector as well as SMEs and private sector in using AI as well as digital skills, as well as like empower them in to we can say promote digital skills and its importance in life of in the future in general. So that's it how Slovakia and our ministry particularly, which is responsible for digital agenda in general, how we look at it.
Okay, great. There was a follow-up question whether there are any cross-border educational projects planned or in place, or this is actually really on national level at the moment. Not sure if anyone knows about any projects.
The European Commission has already established a EU expert body that is dealing with AI in education. And they have been, Mario Gabrieli basically did it 3 years ago, and they're really active. They're trying to tackle it on a ground level when it comes to primary schools, elementary schools, and they already were. And then I know a lot of edX and AI hubs that are basically trying to tackle it on multi-regional levels. Many corporations are going on in Croatia that are encompassing academia with SMEs together with established corporations that are already being done, I would say, at least on 3 or 4 EU member states level. Last week, I just heard about marine innovation technology that also does it together with Italy and Slovenia and Croatia. So I think there are many, many initiatives already in place. And I think that there will be even more in years to come, because there is huge amounts of resources that have been basically there to be distributed in order to have this regional cohesion. And I think when it comes to education, even more.
Perfect. And thank you also, Mariana and Maxim, for providing the 2 links. They seem to be very useful. I just briefly had a look, so thanks for this. Okay. So also last question from Lucia. Could you please sum up what are the next steps with the AI Act timeline-wise, please? So what is actually really the dates that are ahead of us?
I can potentially answer that question. So there is, it will be rather incremental, actually. So like we said in the beginning, first, some obligations will be enforced, and then some others after that. So it will be, if I'm not mistaken, so it shall be published in July, it should be entering into force in August, and 6 months after that, the first obligations, so the ones on prohibited AI systems, will be enforced. Then 6 months again after that, it will be the ones on general purpose AI models. And I think it's after 36 months, everything will be applying, basically. So it's really some sort of incremental implementation. But next to the AI Act, let's not forget that some other things will be happening as well at the European level, at the European Union level. For instance, there is this other EU policy file called the AI Liability Directive, which is basically a file that's here to complement the AI Act when it comes to liability and who's responsible, who's liable in case an AI system malfunctions. So there is the AI implementation, and that's the topic of today. However, let's keep in mind that there will be many other files, many other things that will be discussed at EU level on AI, such as the AI Liability Directive that I just mentioned, and also everything that's related to copyright, right? Although the AI Act includes now some copyright-related provisions with regards to generative AI, there was, I think, last week a Commission briefing confirming that the Commission is indeed thinking of reviewing the Copyright Directive from 2018 to make sure they better account for the needs of the creative sector, for instance, in the light of the uptake of generative AI. So again, there is the AI Act, but there is everything that's happening at EU level, and I haven't mentioned everything that's happening at global level. The Hiroshima process, the Council of Europe, and all of these other levels as well.
Good. Thank you, Maxim, for the outline. Very interesting times ahead of us. If there are any questions in the audience, just feel free to raise your hand or just directly unmute yourself and ask the question. We still have maybe 5 minutes for taking 1 or 2 questions. Okay, I don't see any hands. Oh, there's one from Yiji.
Yes, it just came up to my mind when it comes to some educational projects. There is one particular that I would like to recommend. I think it started as a Finnish project, but nowadays it's like it was translated in all European languages, and which is called Elements of AI, which gives a very good introduction to what AI is and what we can learned about it, and there are like many links to other studies that we can take into consideration when we want to educate ourselves more about artificial intelligence. You can just Google it, elements of AI, and it just came up in your language.
I can just add that we did it in CroAI, and we managed to achieve the Finnish goal of having 1% population finishing and applying for course, and even our prime minister applied. We had one person who was 85 who finished, and then we had advanced edition of Elements of AI, but we never managed to translate it to Croatian. So all those that went to advanced are basically did it in English. But this is really great tool for the general public, or the Andrew Nee AI for everyone. Yeah, you know, just to bust the myths and start tackling with these topics on professional and personal level. So definitely great idea. Thank you, Jiří.
And great that your prime minister participated. The leadership leadership stepping up in this regard is extremely important, right? Kind of guiding us through these times. Very good. Okay, so we don't have any other questions. So maybe I would ask the participants and our guests to kind of wrap up with 1 minute pitch. So maybe we can start with Mariana, then Maxim, Matej, and Jiří in this regard. So can you kind of summarize your view on where we are with the AI Act in 1 minute and what is ahead of us, to kind of just give us the condensated version. Thank you.
So definitely learning time is ahead of us, and learning and collaboration and cooperation, more of startups, agile, fast forward failing is ahead. I think this is the only way we can approach successfully AI. So in a way, we all have to change and open for more cooperation in order to get AI for good on EU level.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, if I had to summarize everything, I mean, what I think of the AI Act, I would say that again, there are good things and bad things in the AI Act. Let's say less good things to be consensual. But I think the success of the AI Act will eventually largely depend on how it's implemented. So again, it's not the end of the journey, unfortunately for us, who have been traumatized by the AI Act, but it's definitely the beginning. So let's make sure that we raise awareness on the AI Act, its impact, and also on its importance as well, in order to make sure that the smaller players, like the startups, make the most out of it. The European Commission, I think it was this year, if I'm not mistaken, I'm losing track of time, but I think it was last year, they also published an AI innovation package for AI startups to be able to tap in supercomputers capacities. So again, the EU is trying really hard to make sure that startups are thriving in the EU. Let's be aware of it. Let's make sure that other people are aware of it as well. Let's raise awareness on this. And again, that's it.
Well, I totally agree with Mariana as well as Maxim. Our role as a state is, as it was already mentioned, discuss, cooperate, educate, raise awareness, as well as, which is our maybe the main role as a policymakers, to set, as I already mentioned, this institutional and legislative framework, which will be really predictable, which will be very well designed, as good as possible. And yes, we still have sometimes we are just in the beginning, even if the negotiation phase is over. We are just in the beginning of implementation, and this will show us how successful we will be when we'll implement the rules that was negotiated at the EU level. And as it was already mentioned by, I think it was by Maxim, there are also other international like processes on the international level, as well as Council of Europe. I can confirm that OECD has its own principle. I'm now just at the OECD headquarters in Paris, because working party IGO has a meeting this week. So we are discussing AI in a more, I would say, broad context with countries like Singapore, India, and others, United States, and so on. So yes, the challenges which the countries worldwide are facing now, there are this will be really important to face these challenges and to be successful as a state, and also including all relevant stakeholders as SMEs, business in general, as I mentioned, cities, cities, regions, academia, and so on and so on. So, and civil society, last but not least. So I hope we'll be successful in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Matej.
Yeah, from my point of view, I think that with all the digital files that are on the table, we need to somehow manage to implement every digital file in line. So it actually makes sense, and it's very understandable for the business sector, because we have DSA, DMA, DGA, Data Act, and AI Act as well. And when the implementation will be done separately, it wouldn't make sense, and it would be very hard to follow all the rules that we have prepared in the last 5 years. So I think it's very important to somehow coordinate all the competent authorities from all the files that we have to deal with at the moment. So it's, as already has been said, like education, cooperation with the stakeholders, and raising the awareness of all the files that we have to deal with. It's very important, and the cooperation is the key of successful implementation of AI Act.
Thank you very much, Jiří, and thank you to our experts sharing your in-depth expertise on this topic. And I think this is just the beginning of the journey. It's definitely not the end. So let's have all good energy and be positive about this. And from my personal view, I think it is once in a generation that we can be at the start of something this exciting with all the potential challenges it brings. But I hope we'll reflect in the future that it was quite cool to be here with all the uncertainty, which is also quite interesting. And let's turn it into an opportunity rather for all of us. So thank you to SAPI and the organizers for putting together this wonderful event. And thank you to all the participants that found the time to join us, and hope to see you all soon, and have a great week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Good day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.